to another episode of Pimp Your Brilliance with Monique Malcolm, a podcast about brilliant people leveraging their passions to create their own opportunities. I aim to show you what's really possible when you shut down the chorus of fear and lean into your genius zone. You can learn more about this show and subscribe for updates by visiting keepchasingthestars.com/podcast or come hang out with me on Instagram at StarChasersOnly. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey Star Chasers, this episode of Pimp Your Brilliance is brought to you by the Visionary Journal. The Visionary Journal is a goal-setting guide, mini vision board, and day planner. It provides a simple structure to help you break your goals into actionable steps that you can integrate into your daily life. For more information and to order your own copy of the Visionary Journal, visit keepchasingthestars.com/Visionary Journal. Welcome back, guys. It's another episode of Pimp Your Brilliance. This is episode number 8. If you like show notes or more information about this episode, you can find them at keepchasingthestars.com/8. Before we jump into talking about this week's episode, I want to give a couple of housekeeping notes. First things first, don't forget about the Brilliant Bitches Book Club. We are reading You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Make sure that you've read the book before the book club episode on August 30th. So on August 30th, there's actually going to be 2 episodes dropping. So make sure that you are not going to get any spoilers by reading the book ahead of time. Also, help me get a better understanding of what you need and what you like to see from the show. I really want to make this the best show possible and make sure that I'm covering topics that you guys are interested in and that are really helpful for you. So I have a survey. It's at keepchasingthestars.com/survey. One lucky listener will win a Visionary Journal prize pack, which includes a copy of the Visionary Journal and my favorite planner supplies. All you have to do is fill out the survey, and I will be announcing the winner on August 30th, right before the book club episode. So actually, you're getting 2 episodes and a winner announcement on August 30th. So make sure that you do that if you're interested. So let's jump into talking about this week's episode. I'm chatting with visual coach and influencer XayLi Barclay. So if you aren't familiar with XayLi, she teaches aspiring infopreneurs and influencers how to use visual content more effectively to be more visible, valuable, and to elevate their online presence. So in this episode, we are discussing common mistakes people make with their visuals, tips for getting comfortable in front of the camera, basic equipment you need to shoot video, and how to leverage Instagram to grow your brand. So this episode is all jam-packed about visuals. So if you were wanting to improve your visuals or just get a couple of tips on how you can make them pop, then this is definitely the episode for you. So let's get to it. Hey XayLi, welcome to the show.
Hey Monique, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you because we're going to talk about one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to online businesses and just how people represent themselves. So please make sure you're taking notes because XayLi is a master at today's topic, and we're going to be talking about visuals. But before we jump into all of that, could you give us a bit of your background? Let us know who you are and kind of how you got started.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, first of all, for your introduction. And, well, I got started years ago, really. When I got out of college, I live in New York City, but I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. So you might hear a little accent in and out of there. So I started college in New York City, and I just always knew that I wanted to work for myself. So it kind of started there, but I got into PR in New York City. I worked for some of the top PR firms, interning while I was in college. So I started actually blogging because of PR, because, you know, we would always be interviewing bloggers, getting them set up for certain things. And I was like, this was, I don't want to do the math, but this was a few years. This was like in 2008. And I just knew that I didn't want to be, setting up bloggers for things. I wanted to be a blogger. And so that's how I really started getting an online platform together. I've always been interested in pictures, colors, and visuals. That's how I really got into it. Now it has evolved and kind of turned into a monster within the past, I would say 3 years. So yeah, that's how I got started.
So at this point, you are a visuals coach, correct?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So let's talk about that, because that is like the thing. As I said, one of my biggest pet peeves online is really bad visuals, because I meet so many people who have great information or great products, excellent craftsmanship, I mean, just amazing. But the visuals that they're using to sell their products or represent their brand are just horrible, 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 horrible. So, it creates such a bad experience, because if you're online and mainly your business exists online, that's all anybody has to go off of when it comes to your reputation, whether or not you can deliver. It's what you have online. So if the visuals don't match, this great product, then people aren't going to buy. So I would love to know, what are some common issues that you see being made online when it comes to visuals?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that your visuals are kind of like your house, right? So if your house is messy and there's like roaches running everywhere and juice spilt from last 2 weeks and pizza boxes and things like that, and I don't want to say friend, because, like someone comes over, someone that you don't know, this is the first time they're meeting you. Let's say they're interviewing to be your roommate or something, and they walk in. I mean, come on, they're going to be appalled, right? So I look at visuals online as kind of like that, or let's say someone came in to steal in your home, they wouldn't even want to touch anything. So it's kind of like your visuals are kind of like the same thing. It should be representing you in a certain way, and they are there to speak when you're not able to speak, right? So they're also kind of like an ad, hey, this is me, before you actually get into visuals are everything. People say no, but they are. I see so many issues. The first issue that I see is images. A lot of people don't have themselves, connected to their content, or they don't have clear images at all, even though it's not them. Their images just don't reflect exactly what they're trying to push or sell or talk about, So that's one thing I see, low resolution, low quality images that just are not relative to what you're talking about. So that's one huge thing. The second thing that I do see a lot would be color. Just not knowing how to use color, or complementary colors, or colors that actually represent what you're doing, and just a lack of vibrancy and a lack of cohesion where colors are concerned. So, that's another thing that people drop the ball with. And then using visuals effectively to connect with their audience is another thing that a lot of people figure they don't have to, but we're in this age where people see things and then they make a connection. That's really honestly how our brain works, right? So you see something or you see someone and then you're like, oh, I'm going to follow this person. Oh, what is the caption for this picture? Or, oh, that's how our brain works. So visuals are super important. So those are 3 things that I see all the time where people just aren't, or just having none at all.
I agree, because everything that you said, I agree with 100%, especially the analogy about the house, because who wants to go to see somebody's house and pick up something or become their roommate if their house is messy? That's a reflection on them. And the same token, your visuals are a reflection of your brand. So I agree with that 110%. So with all that in mind, what are some small ways that someone who's just starting out, so say they're brand spanking new online, what are some ways that they can make their visuals look more cohesive and on brand?
The first thing that I would do is, and a lot of people don't ever do this, is research your competition and see what their, first of all, you have to have a standpoint. What's your point of view for coming online? What are you sharing? And then you look into your competition and you look and you see how their audiences are responding to them. Like you said, social media is or like I can't remember who said it, but social media is very visual. Like even if you look at the platforms, they're all coming into like, Twitter recently didn't include an image in the amount of characters you have and things like that. So everyone's coming into understanding that everything is much more visual. Number two would be, well, it kind of depends on what platform you decide to use, but pick a color or a color scheme, learn your hex codes, and certainly push through with those. Look up visual platforms or platforms that help us to create graphics and such, like Canva or canva.com or snappa.com or picmonkey.com. So I'm giving you free ones. There are also like Photoshop and Pages. Just definitely invest in some sort of software that helps you to stand out even more or create a connection with your audience even more using visual content. I'm thinking about one other thing. Okay. The third would be to start using video. I'm very passionate about video content. People might not always like something, but they will always watch. I've learned that through analytics. So when I say video, it doesn't have to be a fancy video. It could be something you recorded on your phone. It could be a repurposed Snapchat video or a repurposed Insta Stories video, but use video. It's one of the easiest ways to just really even get a message across even more clearly.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you about next. So talk to me about how you use YouTube to promote your brand and your blog, because I know that your YouTube channel is popping. You have so many great videos. You have lots of really great tutorials, and they're all vibrant and shot so nicely. So let's talk about that.
YouTube is a power platform. Like, I don't care what you're doing, what you're selling, what you're blogging about. You should definitely be on YouTube. And thank you so much, Monique. I genuinely love video creation because I feel like it's like visuals are popping, but video is just like the next level of popping. And YouTube is now TV. Like a lot of people set aside times to look at YouTube rather than even like no one really watches live TV anymore. It's always like DVR'd or recorded content on YouTube. So if you're trying to definitely create a voice out there, YouTube is great because there are so many audiences on YouTube. It's much easier to find your audience on YouTube because YouTube is a platform that actually helps you, if used right, helps you find an audience, right? So they do the work for you. As long as you're consistent in putting out quality content, YouTube will market the heck out of your content. So YouTube is definitely the way to go. Even if you have old blog posts, repurpose them and put them on YouTube, create video content out of them. But, yeah, YouTube.
So when you say repurpose blog posts, are you talking about, like, say you had a blog post that was like 5 tips for how to style your hair or something like that? You would kind of like break that down to YouTube style video? Like make
Yes.
those 5 tips into video format?
Yes, definitely. A lot of people are, even bloggers, a lot of bloggers are confused. Like, how do I use video? Go through your old blog posts and recreate that content into video content. It helps you find a fresh new audience and consistently at that. And it also helps you engage your old audience even more because then it just creates a deeper connection. I remember when I started, Instagram was my power platform, still is one of my favorite platforms, but it was all pictures back then. And when I started doing YouTube, people could not believe like my personality. I'm very quirky. I laugh a lot. I smile a lot, but it didn't look that way in my pictures. So video just created a deeper connection. So it's powerful. It's like no other.
And I agree. I find that, if you think about it, there's so much money and just effort being poured into YouTube. And what you said about it being like TV, I have a son
Yes.
who watches YouTube like it is the TV. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I'm hearing more, and I just thought it was like a weird kind of like teenage kid thing. But I'm hearing more and more people are watching YouTube, and they're pushing for that because, they have like YouTube Live and all these other things that they're trying to link into YouTube to get people in there and watching. And it's basically a video search engine. So it
It
functions in a lot of
is.
ways like Google. So it's,
Definitely.
if you want your content to be seen and stand out in another avenue, you're absolutely right that it should be on YouTube. So what about people who are timid and they feel, awkward or uncomfortable being in front of the camera? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, I do have advice for people like that. It's crazy because a lot of my students do feel that way, but they want it so badly. And I can speak on it because I used to be there. I'm a total introvert. Um, like no other. So it's a transformation that you have to make on the inside. You have to think about what's more important. If I keep this great message to myself, or if I get out there and get over my fears and just do it. You're going to feel certain things. You're going to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not pretty enough to be on camera. Maybe I can't do my makeup like these beauty gurus on YouTube and all those kinds of things. I say, just start, do the research, figure out your point of view, and figure out if that fear or lack of confidence or that timidness, if that's more important than you getting to the next level. That's what helps me really like.
So you gave some pieces of software earlier for how people could edit like images and that type of thing. What about basic getting started equipment for somebody who wants to do YouTube? Like what are the bare minimums that they need to have to kind of get that going?
The first thing that I always say is, well, of course, phone, right? So our smartphones have such powerful picture quality or video quality now that, a DSLR, I always mess that word up, is, you don't necessarily need one. Like you just want to get your message out there, but you want to get good quality video. So get yourself some good lighting. So you can either have lighting for free in front of a great window where you have some natural light coming in, or you can invest in a softbox. That's really a good way, a softbox set or a ring light. Just some sort of lighting. I love artificial lighting more because I'm able to film at whatever time of the day. So if I miss that natural light, I can still work. And I work at nights a lot as well. Also, a tripod. Make sure you have a tripod so that you're able to move around and navigate so that you don't always have to be propping your phone on something or it's falling down or you don't have the proper angle. Invest in a good tripod where you're able to pan and zoom and things like that. It really makes everything so much simpler. Also, a good microphone is always a great thing to invest in because you don't want that people can't hear you clearly. And an editing program, like an editing software that you're able to dive into and get your content out there quickly is always one of the best things that you can do or have.
Do you have a suggestion for editing programs for like Mac or PC?
The one that I recommend the most for Mac and PC is Filmora, and I have an entire blog post about it on my blog because it can be used on Mac and PC. So I love that I can teach my students how to use it and they don't have to be specifically using either or, like instead of like iMovie or Windows is, I always forget, Windows Movie Maker. Right. So you can definitely, and it's affordable and it has so many features. So Filmora is definitely my recommendation for the next level up from iMovie or Windows Movie Maker.
Awesome. I will make sure I get the link to that blog post and I'll include it in the show notes. So what are the primary ways that you engage with your audience?
The comments through video content, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Facebook, or whether it be on YouTube. Get into your comments and dive in, and start conversations, spark conversations rather than like if someone says something, ask a question back, have a conversation with your audience. You're always going to be updated and aware of what they need from you rather than just thinking, oh, I'm just going to create this or that. Doing that is one of the most powerful things that you could ever do. Get into your comments, dive in, encourage. A lot of people don't encourage messaging, like no DMs. And, I encourage it because a lot of business happens inside of you messaging someone. Or I always encourage people, even through Insta stories, message me and ask me. It does get overwhelming, but I promise you it's a deeper connection. I'm all about deep connection. So it's deeper. It's a deeper connection than just, a like or listen, it makes a difference.
A lot of people want a huge following and they want fans, but they don't want to really connect with them or, like you said, have those deep connections. And it's such an annoyance because when you really think about it, don't you want people to follow your brand and be like evangelists for your brand? Like when you launch something, you want them to like yell it from the rooftop and tell all the perfect people who it would be great for. So, I mean, you do that by engaging people and making sure that they feel comfortable and like, you guys can connect. You don't want to put a wall or a barrier between you and your audience. You want to be as connected with them as possible because that's how you make your brand grow. And ultimately, that is the goal.
Exactly. Totally agree.
So let's talk about Instagram. Your Instagram feed is fantastic. I mean, you're really consistent with your yellow, which I love because it's such a vibrant color. And I love when you do your little quote graphics. So let's talk about that. Talk about how you've leveraged that platform to help grow your brand.
Sure. Instagram is one of the platforms that really changed everything for me. And thank you, by the way, for that. Instagram really changed a lot for me. And connecting on Instagram really started with me honestly being myself. I didn't come on Instagram to impress anyone or to, I didn't even think about starting a business from Instagram. And I really shared myself and my journey. So my Instagram started off really about me sharing about my hair and my lifestyle. So I had locks for a few years well, and so I would share about that. And then I lost 30 pounds kind of on Instagram from sharing my food and all of that, my workouts and things like that. And I started building a following that way. So I would say if you're building a following on Instagram, don't come on like an expert. Be yourself, like that will come later on in time. So using Instagram helped me to do that. And then I started, like I said, I've always loved pictures and colors and things like that. So everything that I share on my Instagram really comes from the heart. When I do share pictures, it's really my creativity. Like I'm really putting myself out there. And that's one of the biggest ways to connect and just create genuine connections with an audience.
Your Instagram is very cohesive. So are you one of those people who has like rules for what can or can't go on your Instagram feed, or like, is there a method to your madness there?
No, there is no method to my madness. Maybe there should be. and no, I just go with the flow. Like I've tried planning out my Instagram posts. The only time I'll really plan and go forward with it is if I'm launching. I would do like pre-planned posts and put them into Buffer because I use Buffer. I love Buffer, but it's not. It really, really depends on what's going on. If I'm doing a launch, fine. But if I'm not, no, I just go with my flow and I really share exactly like what's going on today or, what happened yesterday or just my genuine feelings. And I roll with that. I knew that I loved yellow as my branding color. So I just rolled with that. And it happens to be very trendy right now for some reason.
It's because yellow looks great on a tan. If you're tan,
I think, yeah. Yes.
So with Instagram, do you have any favorite apps or things that you use for photo editing, or any tips or tricks that you can offer up there?
Well, for Instagram, I do use, I'm into beauty. So I definitely do love a good picture. Sometimes I'll do some light face tuning, smoothing out the complexion. I also love Photoshop Express. So I am subscribed to Photoshop. I do have a Photoshop subscription. So with that, you kind of get all access to Photoshop Express on your phone or on your computer, but I usually just go onto my phone, might saturate my picture a little more, make the colors pop a little more and things like that. And that's all I really use for Instagram. Recently, I've started doing my quotes as videos rather than pictures, and I do that through Canva. So a lot of people have been fascinated with that and asking about it. So I do use Canva for that. I've been enjoying it.
I need you to elaborate on that. How do you use Canva for video?
So Canva recently, you have to have the Canva for Work subscription. And so Canva recently released a feature where you can create an image, and then you can actually create a GIF or a GIF. I never got that word right out of it. And you can actually download it in either the GIF or GIF format or a movie format. So you should definitely check it out. But you have to have the Canva for Work subscription. But they got me with that because video is life. And I'm like, I will pay $12.95 just to have some video quotes.
I love that. I had no idea that was a feature, even a paid feature in Canva. So thanks for that tip. I'm definitely going to check that out because that's another thing that's kind of hot right now. In addition to just video content, but like little short GIF like things that you can create, especially for like Instagram and like the Insta stories. That is like where it's at. And just think about like if you use Canva for Work or something, you could build up a whole little library of little cute GIF quote things that you could use to like fill in your Instagram feed. Because that's the thing. That's always my struggle with Instagram is like just feeling that I need so many pictures and thinking about like 30 days worth of pictures and where am I going to get all these pictures or how am I going to take all of these pictures. So I'm trying to be smarter about figuring out ways to fill the feed without necessarily needing to take a ton of photos.
I can give you at least 3 ways to do that.
Let's do it.
Good. So one way is definitely what we just spoke about, Canva, using Canva, because I always say with video, I'm an advocate for video. So with video, I said before, people will watch. They might not like, but you're going to catch that view. So definitely using Canva is a great way to boost engagement and even boost your analytics. The second way would be get some nice, like it doesn't have to be even yourself. It can even be around you or just some nice videos with your surroundings or flowers. Just make sure it's video content. You can go outside and do that. Go into your backyard, get a video of some flowers and you put your caption underneath it. Or it can be a Snapchat video. It doesn't have to always be fancy and professional. Just make sure it's of good quality. Right? You just always want to make sure of that. So that's a second way. Ooh, I challenged myself a bit too much. Let me think of a third way. Honestly, phones have such good quality. Like I said before, picture and video. Definitely always take a picture of your process. So whatever it is that you do, always have pictures of your process on hand. It doesn't have to be a fancy camera photo, but for me, something like that would be just a picture of my camera lens, or a picture of what I'm eating today. Always keep pictures in your archives. So even if you had a bomb meal last week and you didn't post it, take a picture of that and you can always use it on another day. I'm always taking pictures, so I always have an old picture somewhere that I can just drop just for consistency into my timeline.
Awesome. So there you guys heard it. The Visual Queen is giving you guys tips on how to fill your feed. Another tip that I can add to that, I haven't done this myself, but I've heard other people do it, and it makes sense because I kind of see it in some of those really highly curated feeds, is kind of filling in the feed with stock photos. Not your entire feed, but if you kind of run like a dry spell and you need some filler, looking at some of those really cute stock photo sites like Creator Stock or the Blogettes, and getting like one of their stock photo subscriptions and kind of just, poking it in there whenever you feel like you need something to fill it in. But there I am giving advice. I don't even take myself.
No, that was a good one. Definitely a good one.
So at this point, you've been doing this for a couple of years. You've blogged for several years. You're doing this full time. You're teaching people. You're helping make the internet prettier. So what do you feel has been your biggest lesson learned so far? My
biggest lesson learned so far is just make sure that you love this, because there will be days, for me, it just lasts a few hours because I know my heart is definitely in this. Like, I'll get mad and I'll give up and be like, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not my life. And then 2 hours later, I'll be answering an email like, yes, I can do this. Or, so just definitely not even make sure your heart is in it. Like, if your heart is in it, put it in there 100. I definitely give myself room to get over my tantrums. So if I say at 12 o'clock, I'm not doing this anymore, I'll be like, okay, have your fit for like an hour and then get back to work at 1 o'clock. So just, give yourself room to decompress and get right back into it.
Because we all have those days. I mean, it's just a part of the process. Whether we want it or not, that is just how it works. So I love to end each show with 2 questions. The first one, I call it the Pimp Your Brilliance Action Challenge. And it's you offering 3 pieces of advice or tips for someone who's interested in getting started on YouTube.
Okie dokie. 3 tips that I would give someone that's interested in starting on YouTube. The first one would be to just start. Really, it's not like nothing online is ever, well, I shouldn't say it's not permanent, but it can be changed. Like, if you're a doctor today and you decide to be a food blogger tomorrow, you can do that, right? Because of the power of us being online. So just start. Educate yourself, do the research on what you want to talk about or what you want to say, or, just, and put your point of view into it and just start. It doesn't take much, just start. The second thing would be, start with what people ask you the most about. Like, a lot of people just don't know where to start. And I actually created a freebie on this because it's a question like, where do I start? Like, what do I talk about? Start with what people ask you about the most, and then break that down and then push through, right? And the third thing I would say is be consistent. If you're going to do this, the way to get YouTube to really push your content and market your work is to be consistent. A lot of people just post and then you never see them again, right? So be consistent. Post at least 1 video per week. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be on there every day, but just show YouTube that you're here and you're doing this, and they're going to support you. And YouTube is really like a job. They support you. They email you. They'll give you someone. I forgot what you call them that works along with you. Just show them that you're consistent, and listen, video can be your best friend.
And my last question is books. What are you currently reading, or what have you read recently that really?
Right. I love books. I can't even start talking about. So I had to choose 2 that, well, kind of 3, but books. One of my favorite books that really, really changed my life was the entrepreneurial, I always mess that word up, roller coaster by Darren Hardy. And it just really teaches you exactly, like, it's okay. Like, when I first listened to it, I didn't understand what he was saying because I was still transitioning into full-time entrepreneurship. And he said that there would be some days that, like we just spoke about, like the world is, you're on top of the world, and some days like the world is on your shoulders. And when I first heard that, I'm like, what is he talking about? Entrepreneurship is the best thing ever. But then you get into it and you realize that it is really a roller coaster. So definitely that's one of my favorite books because he talks you through the entire thing. My second favorite book, or my second book recommendation, would definitely be anything by Jen Sincero. Her first book, How to Be a Badass, changed my life years ago. This was like, I want to say 4 years ago, I think. And recently she released How to Be a Badass at Making Money. If you haven't read it yet, definitely read it.
I have that book, and I ordered it pre-order, and I am obsessed. And several people who I've interviewed we have talked about this book, and it's to the point now where I'm like quietly thinking, like, can I do an entire episode?
You should.
People who have read the book, can we do like a
Please.
giant podcast?
Let's do it.
Talk about this book? I'm gonna see how I can make it happen because everybody needs to read this book. It is such an empowering book about making money and being comfortable with money. And that is something that many creatives, entrepreneurs, business owners are not, and especially female business owners and entrepreneurs are not comfortable about. So I'm going to have to put something on the calendar. All right. So if people want to get in contact with you, where can they find you online?
I'm all over social as XayLi Barclay, and that's XayLi Barclay. You can also find me at XayLiBarclay.com. And I have an awesome Facebook group where we discuss visuals and video content all day, every day. And it's called the Influencer Hub. And if you head over to XayLiBarclay.com, you can definitely get in. And I'm looking forward to greeting you.
Yes, well, definitely, you guys, check out her website, check out her group. And if you do, let her know that the Pimp Your Brilliance podcast sent you.
Yes.
And with that being said, thank you so much for being on the show. I love all of the great tips and resources that you offered because I knew you were going to nail this. So I'm so excited that you said yes.
Oh, thank you, Monique. It was a pleasure.
And that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Learn more about this show and get access to show notes by visiting keepchasingthestars.com. While you're there, make sure you subscribe for updates. I'll be back next week, and in the meantime, go out there and pimp your brilliance.